Top TV, Truth of the People.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Awaken with Linet, Kinya. So, as I said earlier, today we will be discussing about us, who we are, our identity, and how to discover ourselves in Christ. So, before I go any further, if you are new to this channel or to this show, please be sure to subscribe to our channel, The Top TV, and be sure to follow me on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter at Awaken with Linet Kinya. My name is Linet Kinya, and I'll be taking you through today's topic. So please feel free and enjoy. So I wanted us to discuss about ourselves, like who we are in general, and why we are here essentially, and what our purpose and our plan is on this earth. You know, we come from different backgrounds, and depending on where you are, you can either feel like your life is more meaningful, or you can find yourself feeling like you have got no purpose on this earth, which is something that I felt before, and which some of you maybe probably would relate to. Before I got born again, before I knew Christ as my Lord and Savior, I did not know much about myself. I did not think that I was meant to be here. I always thought that I was a mistake because of probably my bad circumstance. Unlike most children who are longed for and waited for and planned for years, I just came to this world unplanned for, completely unwanted. My mom got me when she was, I think, 18 or 19 years old. And back in the day, it was a taboo for a girl to not just have a boyfriend, but to have a child out of wedlock. So just like any other young female, she of course contemplated of having me aborted. But one way or another, here I am. So my whole life, I felt like I really did not belong. I felt like I was really not wanted or unplanned for, until I grew up. 22 years later is when I discovered that actually, you know, I am not a mistake. My parents may have not have planned to have me, but God did have a plan to have me. And no matter what kind of circumstance that you came from, you know, some of us come from rape, others come from, you know, just other things. You know, we come from different origins. Others, on the other hand, were really prayed for, and it was a miracle for your parents to have you, so you always feel like you were meant to be here. Others were gotten from very weird and unhappy circumstances. Others, maybe your mom gave birth to you but left you. Others, your dad abandoned you when you were little or denied you your existence. So we come from different backgrounds, and depending on where you come from, it may one way or another have affected how you grew up believing in yourself. Because I, for one, know that it affected me a lot. I did not try so hard in anything. I lived quite a very mediocre life. I performed well enough in school not to be the last, and not so good enough to be the first. I always was average or a little bit above average. I knew deep inside that, you know, I had the potential to be more, but I kept letting this voice inside my head tell me, you know, what do you think you can do? What do you think you're capable of? So I let it shut me up, but not for so long, because I ended up eventually overcoming that voice and stepping it up to become the person that I know God has created me to be. And so in such instances, I kept on being reminded this verse that comes from Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 5. And it says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations." So this just goes on to say that, you know, before you were formed in your mother's womb, God knew you. Whether you were gotten by a 16-year-old mom, whether your dad abandoned you, regardless of the circumstance in which you came from. Look at all the great people. I like to look an example of Les Brown. Les Brown, her mom got her just in some abandoned house, and she was left to another person. So she was raised up by a mother that was not her own. And right now he's such a great person. He inspires so many people. He's a wonderful speaker. This goes to show you that, just because you were born at such mediocre circumstances, such unworthy to some people circumstances, does not mean you are lesser than them. It maybe goes on to say you are actually more and more and more and more worthy, and your plans for and God's plans for your life are actually way greater. That is why, regardless of the circumstances, He made sure you came to this earth. So never ever belittle yourself because of your bad circumstance. Never ever belittle yourself because of your background. You may come from a poor background whereby you got no connections, you have no a good academic background, your parents just aren't getting along. Maybe you have an abusive father, maybe you have an abusive mom. As in, these things that can really discourage you, lead you to depression, and make you feel like you are less of an equal to other people. I just want to remind you today that you are an equal to them, and you may be even more than them. You should not let that make you feel inferior or dim your light, because you should let your light shine. So the book says, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. So it is you that I'm talking about, because this verse spoke to me, and the moment I understood this is the moment I realized what kind of a miracle I truly am, and I started living in the power that I should have lived in for the past 20 years. The Bible says, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Who is that? God. God is speaking to you, saying that, before He formed you in your mother's womb, He knew you. Whichever name you are, whether your name is Esther, whether your name is Michael, whether your name is Brian, Joshua, Caleb, whichever name that you are, I want you to know today that before you were formed in your mother's womb, God actually knew you. Before you were born, He set you apart. Before you, who is watching me, you were born, God set you apart. I don't know what kind of life you are leading right now as you're listening to this, but I just want to tell you and to make sure you know that God set you apart for a purpose that is His. And the devil knows that, and that is why he ensures that we do not understand what God says of us. That is why he ensures that he drives us away from God, because he knows the plans that God has for us are mighty plans, plans with a future and plans with a hope. He says, I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. You may not be a prophet per se, like prophet. You may have different careers and different endeavors, but just it goes on to tell you, God had a special plan for you. You did not just land in this earth. You did not just land in the year that you landed in. You are in this current generation, whether you are in the X generation, Y, or the Z. You are where you are for a particular reason. Esther was told, you are in that position. You are Queen Esther for a time such as this. And whether you use that position wisely or not, judgment will be done as well. And she went on to use her position wisely, which saved an entire nation, her nation. So I just want to tell you, you are here in this world at a time such as this, with a purpose and for a purpose that is God's purpose alone. And the devil will try so much to fight that. He will try to fight that by ensuring that you do not believe in yourself, by ensuring that you do not know Christ, by ensuring that you get into negative companies, by ensuring that you do all manner of things like drug abuse, by ensuring that you maybe get depressed and suffer all manner of mental health challenges, and will just waste up your time in things that do not matter, just to make sure that he hinders you from achieving the things that matter. So if you are watching this, that is not a coincidence. I want you to know and to learn, and I'm sure God intended for you to watch this video so that you may know that, before he formed you in your mother's womb, he knew you. You may not know your dad, you may not know your mom, but God knows you. He knows you by name. He knows you by the number of hair that is on your head. He knows you perfectly. He knows the school that you've been into, and he allowed you to go to that particular school because there is something that he wanted you to gain from it. He knows the friends that you've gotten ever since you were a child, and he aligned every one of them to bring something in you that was different. You know, I look back now in my life and realize that everything about my life was a mystery. You know, when I was living it at the time without the knowledge that I have right now, I felt like, you know, it was just normal. It's normal that I've woken up. It's normal that I've gone to this school. It's normal that I have these friends. But I want you to ask yourself one question. Why is it that you live in the house that you live in, with the parents that you have, with the friends that you have, and in the school that you've gone to, when there are over a billion other chances and other ways in which your life could have gone? It just goes on to tell you that, you know, God planned everything perfectly. Everything that has happened in your life so far was intended for it to go as it has. And if you know the scriptures as well as I do, if you know God as well as I do, you understand that all things, whether good, whether bad, whether ugly, whether beautiful, work together for good for those who trust the Lord. So the circumstance that you are in right now, the background that you are in right now, it was all intended for good. It may not be pleasing. You may have questions. You know, I always have questions in my mind, you know. Why? Oh, I didn't go on to conclude my story, you know, after my mom could not abort me. Now, you know, she had to bring me out on this world, but she did not feel like she was quite fit to take the responsibility of being a mom, so she gave me up. So I grew up not having my mom and feeling like my own mom rejected me. So I always felt like I was rejected from the very beginning. And you've gone through this, you know how painful it is to watch other kids, you know, grow up with their bad mothers and knowing that yours is not with you because maybe she's dead, which is something you cannot avoid, but because she chose not to care for you, she chose an easier path, which was to leave you. She chose not to be responsible for the circumstances and for the choices that she made. And so, you know, I felt like, you know, a mom is a very important factor in anyone's life. I mean, dads leave, 99% of the time dads leave, but to have a mom leave, that hits deeper than anything else. And it did for me. It affected me so much. But then I've come to realize that, you know, it wasn't about my mother. Her sole purpose was to bring me on this world, which she did, and the rest was God's. The rest was God's, and He ensured that I got raised well. He provided for everything that I needed. He gave me an extremely wonderful, loving dad who took up the position of both a mom and a dad, and also gave me another mom who I love and adore. So just to tell you that, you know, your circumstance should never make you feel like you are lesser than you are right now. And the moment I understood that, everything in my life changed, you know. The moment I understood who I am and whose I am, and that the devil went out of his way to ensure that I did not step in this world, just made me know how extremely powerful and different I am. And understanding that made me lead my life in a different way. Instead of walking with my head low and shrugging my life around, I walked in confidence with my head high, because I understood, you know, the Lord has brought me this far because He has a plan for you, for me. And He says in Jeremiah 29 that the plans that I have for you are wonderful. They are plans to give you a future and a hope. Not the plans that your mom has for you, not the plans that your dad has for you, or your aunt, or your niece, or your guardian. The plans that God has for you. And I feel like my life was designed in a very perfect way that I may be able to understand other people. You know, when I go to orphanages and these children come to me and they ask me, Linet, you know, why did God not give me parents? You know, I understand because I had the same question. So I feel like my story was designed for me to be more relatable to people. everything that I've gone through, every single circumstance, whether I liked it or not, it has made me just be understanding to other people. Like when I visit children's homes and I sit down with these children, and they ask me, Linet, why, if God is so loving, why do I not have parents? Why did my parents abandon me? Why did they not like me? Why did God not give me a normal, child experience like other people? So they questions all these things, which I understand because myself I questioned before I understood. I kept on asking God, why did I not have my mom? Why did she leave me? Why did she not stick with me like other moms do stick? We always celebrate mothers in Mother's Day, and how much they have fought to keep us to the point that we are. Why did I not get a chance to do that? And God reminds me, his ways are not our ways, but in all things, regardless of the circumstance, all things always and always will work together for our good. So just because things aren't looking up does not mean you are a lesser being. Actually, it goes differently. When circumstances do not favor you, they are to create a character in you and more perseverance in you, for you to be more understanding and relatable to other people. And if everything in your life is perfect, if everything in your life is wonderful, how then will God get to glorify himself in your life? But if you have all these things that you are lacking, when he comes to fill in all those gaps and spaces, you will appreciate him more. So it is good to lack sometimes, because that is when we understand that, God is able to do this and this and this and this. So today's message was just to remind you, those that quite relate to this, whether you come from a background that does not appreciate you, like Joseph, for instance. His brothers hated him. I'm sure he questioned himself a lot, and many times, I have all these dreams, God, that I feel like you make me great one day, but it's not happening, and instead my brothers are hating me for it. But later on it came to pass. So it's not a question of whether our destinies are great. That is not a question. That is a fact. Our destinies are great. The only difference comes in the timing. Our timings are different. One may attain that destiny earlier than another, but it doesn't mean that we don't have great destinies. Each we all do. It's just a matter of timing. So regardless of what you're going through, regardless of how you feel right now, I don't know what you're going through. We all go through so many different things that we can't even quite put to words. I just want you to know that you are not alone. It may look like it, but you are not alone. You have a friend who sticks closer than a brother, and that is Jesus Christ. And God is always there for you. He is your Father. Whether you know him or not, he knows you by name, and he will always stick closer to you until you know him and until you understand that he loves you regardless of everything else, that he adores you, and that he has a plan for you. So live your life each day like it's a blessing and like you understand why you are here, because God has a plan for you. And in case you don't know what that plan is, just keep on praying about it. Keep on reading the word. Just keep on getting closer to God, because he will reveal it in due time. He says in his word that in his time, he will make all things beautiful. So that is the end of our episode, guys. I hope you liked it. I hope you were blessed by it. I hope you were empowered to believe more in yourself, because you matter. There is something that the universe will miss if you were not in here. So live like you matter. That is all from me. I am Linet Kinya. I loved every bit of this video because I felt like it came straight from the heart. I was speaking to you guys something that I feel is quite meaningful to everyone that will hear. So I hope it blesses you. And if you liked it, please share it with someone else, someone that you think will need it. Feel free to share, feel free to like, feel free to leave a comment, that I may understand what to talk about more and what you feel just in general about the message. and about the channel of Awaken here at Top TV. So keep on following me and subscribe to this amazing channel, and always tune in every Friday for more episodes from me, Awaken, with myself, Linet Kinya. Bye bye.